go to a country that's a Stalinist country, because that's clearly the tradition that you're from. You should go to Cuba. I've gone to Cuba and done documentaries. You should see what life's like there. North Korea would be fun. Perhaps you could fly into mainland China and try and live under a social credit system. See how much your activism, gets you, how far your radical intersectional feminist ideologies get you in, I don't know, the Mideast or in an African nation. Try it. Go. I beg of you. And more importantly, make sure you book a one-way ticket. Make sure you book a one-way ticket.
In this clip, Benny Johnson absolutely torches David Pakman in this fiery debate on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Pakman is out here trying to justify Biden's failures while tiptoeing around the blatant hypocrisy of the left. Meanwhile, Benny brings the heat with brutal takedowns of woke ideology's cognitive decline in this fantasy world that left insistence on living in. Let's get into it because Benny didn't come here to play and neither are we. Let's get into it.
Does it not concern you that the glee that currently is spewing out from every Democrat pore might be tempered by a pretty hard reality shock if it plays out the way Alan suggests?
Well, I agree with much of what Alan is saying and not all of it. He's a lawyer. I am not. And to some degree, I don't even know why I'm here, but we can discuss that part later. But I think Trump's going to lose either way. And why do I think that? Because Republicans have lost everything since Trump won in 2016. 2018 was a disaster. Trump lost 2020. The red wave of 2022 led to Democrats getting a bigger majority in the Senate. The 2023 special off-year elections, every abortion-related referendum, it's been a disaster. So Trump's going to lose regardless.
Here we go, Pakman trying to paint a doomsday scenario for Trump. Abortion redundums have energized the left? Sure, but what he's ignoring is the grassroots movement growing on the right. Trump isn't just a candidate, he's a phenomenon. People show up for him because they know he represents their values. Meanwhile, Biden can't even fill a bingo hall. And let's not forget, Pakman's evidence is cherry-picked at best. He's out here stringing together random data points like a bad conspiracy theorist. The truth is, Trump's support base is stronger than the left wants to admit, and Pakman can keep whistling past the graveyard, but this recent election results are going to be a wake-up call.
I don't know how much of an impact this verdict is going to have, but we know what he was found guilty of. You can say, well, I don't know that they should have brought the case. There is prosecutorial discretion. Hopefully we'll talk about that with regard to Hunter Biden as well. You can say the judge should have recused himself because he made a $35 donation to Act Blue. But to succeed on appeal, you have to point to something the judge actually did that's problematic. And the lawyers I've spoken to can't really point to anything. So I think Alan makes some good points. I just don't see this as the crazy controversy that some are making it out to be.
Well, they were rigging an election.
But can you admit that now they're going after both sides equally? You said just a few minutes ago, oh, Donald Trump, the Republicans, they're always being prosecuted. They're Stalinists. But here's an example of the Biden justice system going after his own son. Can you admit that this justice system is treating both sides equally?
Not so clear. Not so clear. They're trying him in Delaware, where he has all the tremendous advantages, and they tried Trump in New York, where he had all the disadvantages. We'll see what the outcome of the case is.
Also, where they were based.
Okay, let me ask David a question. This is about the Wall Street Journal big report today about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They spoke with 45 Republican and Democratic lawmakers and staffers. It was pretty unsettling reading, I have to say. It seemed pretty clear by the time I finished it that Joe Biden is suffering some form of dementia. That was the clear conclusion from those who've been around him. And we see enough in public to suggest that may be the case. How comfortable are you that he is going to be fighting this election and potentially being president for 4 more years?
Comfortable? Biden barely remembers what day it is, and you expect him to run a country for another 4 years? Obviously now we know that isn't the case, but watching Biden shuffle through speeches is like watching someone try to read a teleprompter through a foggy glass.
Well, worst case scenario, they both are struggling cognitively, in which case I'd much rather the people around Biden making decisions than the sycophants Trump would put around him, which, with no offense at all, are sort of versions of Benny Johnson, by the way. And the audience, I'm sure we could have a beer together, Benny, and have a great time, but it's not like I necessarily want the government run by people like you. So I think worst case scenario, The worst case scenario, they're both struggling. You know, at this point, I've interviewed 4 medical and mental health professionals, 2 from mental health, 2 from the neurology side. So far, they've all told me Joe Biden is experiencing age-related aging that you would expect for someone of his age. Trump seems to be seriously cognitively struggling, where he doesn't realize he's saying things that don't make sense. He doesn't realize that he's getting names completely wrong, stories that don't make sense, doesn't know who he ran against, doesn't.
Let's break this down. Biden's supposed to be the leader of the free world, but he can't even remember the basics of his own career. Imagine hiring a pilot who forgets where the cockpit is. That's Biden trying to navigate global diplomacy. And yet the media's response, total silence. And that's how it's been forever. It's beyond embarrassing.
Know who he's running against, doesn't know who he ran against in 2016 or who's president right now. I mean, a level of confusion. And again, I'm neither a neurologist nor a mental health expert. This is what the mental health experts have told me. Now, I will say, I read the article. Some of the sourcing is people that MAGA Mike Johnson talked to. That's not super compelling to me. However, I do think Annie Linsky is a trustworthy reporter. I am not pretending this story isn't out there, and I cover it on my show today. I think it's a serious story.
If Donald Trump came out and said that his great uncle had been shot down and then eaten by cannibals, and it turned out that he hadn't been shot down or eaten by cannibals, you would probably lead a cry of, this man is not fit to be president, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe I would. I mean, Trump has made stuff up about his uncle developing nuclear weapons or something just as ridiculous. And so I think we have examples of both. I don't know that they're super compelling one way or the other.
Okay.
The vice president
Alan?
here. That's why the presidency here is more important than in any election since Franklin Roosevelt in 1944, because whoever is the vice president will be the next president.
Right.
And if I were the Republicans, I would put up the strongest, most presidential person, Nikki Haley, for example, or somebody like that, to run it. Kamala. If Trump tends to pick somebody just who is somebody helping get president, helping get elected, but wouldn't be a good president, that would be a terrible mistake. This is a race for who's going to be the next president, not only who's going to be president.
Okay. Benny, I want to give you the last word, because Sienna Miller, the actress, has said she has already fled the United States, partly due to avoid Donald Trump. She said, I'm living in New York for 7 years till last summer. It was time to come home. Obviously got a little baby. It's a better quality of life. And there is no Donald Trump. I couldn't handle another election. We are, I think, heading to that familiar rodeo of a lot of famous people saying they're either leaving or have left the country to avoid Trump. What do you make of this?
Good. Fantastic. Why not? We live in a free country. Go where you please. But if just a personal, humble recommendation from your boy Benny, go to a country that's a Stalinist country, because that's clearly the tradition that you're from. You should go to Cuba.
Man, Benny does not hold back, and honestly, he is right. These woke warriors have all this love for Marxist ideologies, but never seem to book a one-way ticket to their socialist utopias. Why? Because deep down, they know life is brutal under those systems. Benny mentioning Cuba is spot on. It's a country where dissent gets you locked up faster than you can say progressive. But Pakman, he's probably sipping his oat milk latte, nodding along as if Cuba's government isn't keeping people in poverty. These people want socialism, but only the kind where they still get to keep their iPhones and Netflix subscriptions.
I've gone to Cuba and done documentaries. You should see what life's like there. North Korea would be fun. Perhaps you could fly into mainland China and try and live under a social credit system. See how much your activism, gets you, how far your radical intersectional feminist ideologies get you in, I don't know, the Mideast or in an African nation. Try it. Go. I beg of you. And more importantly, make sure you book a one-way ticket. Make sure you book a one-way ticket. You don't want any. You don't want to,
the defense that you have for Donald Trump and anything to the left of Donald Trump, including Nikki Haley, is a Stalinist. So, wait till you learn how much of a
I would never call people like Alan Dershowitz a Stalinist.
Anything for 8 years. They're desperate. It's been 8 years since
this is
they
great.
won anything.
Keep talking
They're
like
terrified.
this.
I'm desperate.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying when you lock up when you show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Lock up my political enemies. That's Stalin. That's Stalinism.
All right.
That's fascistic.
We began with
branches
Stalin.
of
We're
government.
ending with Stalin. Thank you to my panel. A fascinating debate. I really appreciate it.
So, what do you guys think? Did Benny leave Pakman speechless or what? This clip was a perfect takedown of the woke hypocrisy we see every day. If you're tired of the left's nonsense, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below your thoughts. This is a place for discussion. And let's keep calling out the craziness and fighting for the truth.